Powerful video, isn't it? I have a feeling that that video, first a big thank you to our audiovisual team for putting that together. But that video makes a statement. And I have a feeling that that's not the only statement that's going to be made here today. Would you agree? I thought you might. Fellow aviators, welcome. Welcome to the many pilots who have filled this room, to the many more who have filled the rooms in Toronto and Vancouver, and to the still more who are listening live on social media. My name is Captain Desmond Jordan. I am the chair of the Pilot to Pilot Committee, and today I'll be acting as your MC in the proceedings today for WestJet Pilots' transnational informational picketing event. As the MEC, it is my honor to introduce a list of 6 exceptional speakers. Please allow me to introduce them all first before you come forward with any applause. Our list today is comprised of our very own First Officer Christina Thomson, our Strike Committee Chair, our very own Captain Lewall, the MEC Chair, Captain Jason Ambrosi, President of the Airline Pilots International Association, First Officer Charlene Hudy, MEC Chair of Air Canada's Pilots Association, and soon to be our newest ALPA members, Captain Ashley Sweet-Wagner, Encore MEC Chair, and also Captain David Campbell from Alaska, a member of ALPA's National Strategic Preparedness and Strike Committee, and also our contact person with ALPA. So please, help me in welcoming our 6 exceptional speakers. Thank you. And without further hesitation, I will turn the proceedings over to Christina Thomson, our Strike Committee Chair. Christina.
This is incredible. This is incredible. We've been planning for this day for a very long time, and now we're all here with the most support we've ever had from this pilot group in 5 years of our time with ALPA. So, good morning, everybody in Toronto, Vancouver, and of course all of you here in Calgary. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Christina Thomson, and I am the chair of the Strike Committee for the WestJet Pilots, and I've been a pilot with WestJet for over 15 years. Today's date holds much significance. For those of you that didn't realize it, it was 5 years ago today exactly that we all stood here in this exact place, joined together in solidarity to demonstrate our resolve to obtain our first ever collective agreement. And now, 5 years later, more unified and stronger than ever, we are joined here not only by our peers at Air Canada, Jazz, Transat, Sunwing, Wasaya, and of course Encore. We're also joined by our colleagues south of the border from airlines such as Southwest, Alaska, Delta, and the Delta pilots and FedEx pilots. These pilots have taken time away from their homes and families on their days off to stand here in support of us in recognition that our employer continues to disrespect and undervalue us. The attendance here today is absolutely overwhelming. Right before I came up to take the podium, I looked at our final numbers, and between 3 cities, we have just shy of 800 in attendance that have RSVP'd. These pilots are here with us today because everybody understands how abysmal our contract negotiations are going. There's a change happening across this country right now. And finally, Canadian pilots are realizing the value that we bring to our companies and understanding our own worth. We are finally realizing that for far too long we have been exploited by our respective management teams, and we are finally willing to fight against that. Currently, we at WestJet are at the tip of the spear of this fight, and all the other pilots representing us here from across North America recognize this, and I thank them all for coming to join us in this fight. This is clearly not just about WestJet pilots or Canadian pilots anymore. This is about the future of our profession, and I can assure you that every pilot in North America is laser focused on the contract negotiations that this pilot group right here is undergoing right now. The Air Canada pilots recently voted 84% in favor of joining ALPA because they too have watched the degradation of this profession in our country for far too long and are not willing to stand for it anymore. This is a monumental shift for the piloting profession in Canada, and I am truly humbled and proud to see us all standing together to improve the future of this profession for all Canadian pilots. Where we are in this negotiating cycle was not by choice. We did not want to get to this point, but unproductive negotiations forced us into a situation where filing for conciliation became our only option. While this unfortunately did little to strengthen our position at the bargaining table, we were then forced to make the decision to open a strike authorization ballot, which returned an incredibly strong 93% in favor result. This result is a clear indication that this pilot group supports our MEC, we support our negotiating committee, and we are willing to take whatever steps are necessary to achieve a contract that we have earned. Recently, our CEO said on the news, and I state, everything that the pilots have been doing in the last few weeks and months is common practice. I could not disagree more. I wholeheartedly disagree. Achieving a 93% strike mandate and drawing this negotiation out to the last stages of conciliation is not common practice. We are 8 days out from possibly being in a strike or lockout scenario, and we have no tentative agreement. This is not normal bargaining. It is an indication of the failure of our management's ability to value the contributions of the pilots and negotiate fairly with us. Competent management teams can reach agreements with their pilots and other labor groups without resorting to the brinksmanship of conciliation. The fact that our management would construe this as normal is a reflection of their unwillingness to recognize the important value we bring to our company and the central role we play in the wealth they generate. While we cannot foresee what will happen in the coming days and weeks, what I can promise to you is that your strike committee is ready. Thousands of volunteer hours have contributed to how prepared we are today. We have 3 fully functioning strike centers running in Calgary, Toronto, and Vancouver, respectively. And while it would be absolutely impossible for me to thank everyone that has contributed to the success of this operation, I have to express my deepest gratitude to 3 men who stepped up to become our local strike chairs in each base. So Captains Brent Villitard, Peter Boney, and Rob Sims, none of this would ever be possible without the teams that you have built. Thank you. Along with the Strike Center preparation, we have created a strike QRH. Although I hope we never have to use it, it very well may become the lifeline for all of our members who will be operating or away from home if a strike is called. It is a one-of-a-kind document which provides information and guidance to follow in the event of a labor disruption. And once again, I always must give credit where credit is due, so please let me express my eternal gratitude. The man behind the creation of this document, Captain Tom Lindstrom. Further to that, I have to acknowledge the efforts of one of our very own, a man who not only helped shape today's event, but has been the mastermind behind the success of our podcast and video productions. Without him, none of these productions would exist, and of course, thank you at the back of the room, Captain Chris Vaughan Jones. And most importantly, at this juncture, none of this is possible without funding. Nothing that we have undertaken would be conceivable without the funding to back it up. Procuring space for strike centers, erecting billboards, and running social media ads does not come without a cost. And so I have to thank the ALPA Executive Board and ALPA President, Captain Jason Ambrosi, who's joining us here today. Because of them, we can continue to operate without fear of depleting our own dues dollars because of the generous grant of the $2 million major contingency fund that was awarded to us. So in closing, today we are unequivocally sending management the message that we support the MEC and the negotiating committee. We all know very well that our true goal is showing WestJet management that we are united in our effort to secure a contract and that we remain committed to a successful resolution before the end of the cooling off period next week. However, in case management still refuses to understand current industry market conditions, and if they continue to ignore the value that we bring to this airline, and they continue to ignore their attraction and retention problems, then rest assured that we will be ready for any possible outcomes in the weeks ahead. And once again, I reiterate, we are ready. And now for our next speaker, let me please introduce your chairman, Captain Bernie Lewall.
Good morning, everyone. Let me begin by acknowledging all of you guys in Vancouver, Calgary, and Toronto. Your presence here is so important. I'm impressed, you guys. Over 700 pilots. I think you said near 800, right? Near 800 pilots on their days off, making sure that management hears us loud and clear that the status quo is unacceptable. Thank you again. Our last 5 years here have not been without challenges. 5 years ago today, our very first MEC chair, Captain Rob McFadden, Seabass, stood right here before you guys in this very same spot to deliver some inspirational words before taking part in our very first informational picket. Now, if someone had told me back then, on May 8th, 2018, that over the next 5 years, we would have to go through arbitration to settle our first contract, have 50% of our pilot group on furlough due to a global pandemic, or that to help our airline survive during COVID, some of our members would have to sacrifice up to 70% of their salaries, I would have looked long and hard at that person and said for any of that to happen would be near impossible. But here we are, and after an unbelievable 5 years, here we are. We've gone through all of that and more. We've endured a management that has attempted to undermine our association at every turn. But I have to say that we, as a pilot group, have come out of this stronger than ever. Following a 93% strike authorization vote, I think it is safe to say we are a united pilot group. We're united in knowing things must change at our airline. We're united in understanding, unlike our employer, that in a post-COVID world, the labor market has changed. We're united in knowing if we don't get a North American standard contract that pays our pilots what we are worth, we will be forced to leave for other better opportunities. This is something our CEO has not yet acknowledged, but today he will take notice. Our CEO touts continually his growth strategy every chance he gets, while our airline continues to hemorrhage pilots. Currently, our company is on track to lose 20% of its pilots, of its experienced pilots, within the next year. I know from our polling that that number will grow significantly if we cannot come to an equitable resolution at the bargaining table. Our pilots will be talking with their feet. Which brings us to exactly why we're here today. Our goal is to avoid a strike. We want to continue being a major contributor to WestJet's success and help the company recognize its growth strategy. But if management leaves us no other option, we will be forced to take job action to ensure that that happens. We will fight for our futures, our careers, and yes, for the very survival of our airline. Without a contract that helps attract and retain experienced, qualified pilots who will once again look at WestJet as being a career destination, there will be no airline left to grow. We're hopeful last month's strong strike vote result and this amazing show of unity across the three bases, we're hopefully that will provide management the initiative or the incentive to finally reach an agreement with us. But the reality is we are prepared for all outcomes. I, along with members of our MEC and committees, have spoken with our pilots in every base. We have heard loud and clear from all of you that you back us and you back our negotiating committee. So thank you for that, you guys. It is time to show management once again that we are unified. We will not be content with the status quo, and we're not willing to accept a contract that will fail to address the core issues of fair pay, reasonable work rules, and real job security. Today we stand together. We will show our resolve for a contract that will put WestJet back on the path of returning to its former status of once again being a career destination, one where pilots will want to stay, one where pilots will want to come, and then one where pilots will want to stay until they retire. We have the backing of ALPA and an amazing group of volunteers to help us towards that goal. So today, in closing, I'm keeping it fairly short. Today, in closing, I want to reiterate how proud I am of all of you. Your MEC is proud and humbled by your support, and the unity that this group has shown, not only in our strike vote, not only in the polling data, not only that almost every pilot is wearing these beautiful yellow and pink lanyards on the line, but most importantly, and you all coming here on your day off to stand up for your profession. That speaks volumes. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. Thanks everyone again, and with that, I'd like to invite our ALPA President, Captain Jason Ambrosi, up to say a few words.
Well done. Wow, that's a tough act to follow right there. Well done, my friend. This is awesome. What an incredible display of unity here. Thanks, Bernie. I am honored to join you here today and witness such a powerful display of airline pilot solidarity. Solidarity demonstrated an incredible turnout at WestJet's Calgary base, solidarity in hundreds of pilots gathered in Toronto, solidarity in the crowd present in Vancouver, solidarity among the ALPA pilots who fly for other airlines, and among pilots from other unions who stand with us. Across the great nation of Canada and throughout North America, airline pilots stand in solidarity. I believe that serving our pilot colleagues is our union's highest calling. That's why I thank each of you for being here with us today. You're raising the bar for the WestJet pilots. You're raising the bar for airline pilots in Canada. You're raising the bar for all airline pilots around the globe. I know the sacrifices that airline pilots made during the pandemic. You know the sacrifices because you lived them. You kept your airline in business, even when management wouldn't listen to your MEC and negotiators, which resulted in massive layoffs and downgrades. Even then, you delivered on your commitment to the WestJet passengers, and you made sure that you were more than ready when the economic recovery came. Now that passengers are returning to the skies, WestJet is strong and successful. Why? Because of the skill and commitment of its pilots. Today, WestJet is pursuing an aggressive growth strategy. How will such a growth strategy be possible? by the company solving its pilot attraction and retention problem by negotiating a North American standard collective agreement for you, the well-trained and dedicated WestJet pilots. Now it's your turn. WestJet must recognize the value and the expertise its pilots bring to the company and its passengers. You not only lead the company to the other side of the pandemic, but you continue to contribute to its success on every flight deck, every day and night. The numbers are clear. The company's refusal to acknowledge the contribution of its pilots is already causing its pilots to look for better opportunities elsewhere. The WestJet group, one WestJet pilot leaves every 18 hours. That's hard to believe. And it's also causing new pilots to think twice about working at WestJet. Now, WestJet management should look at the data. They should recognize that going back to the bargaining table is the answer. They should acknowledge that reaching a collective agreement is the answer by offering their pilots competitive pay, career progression, and job security. That means treating Swoop as part of the main line, ensuring that Sunwing cannot be used as a whipsaw against the WestJet pilots. This is what will provide the strength and stability the company needs to achieve its growth plan. But after 7 months of good faith negotiations by the WestJet pilots, WestJet management has yet to get serious. Well, today we're here to let WestJet know that its pilots are serious. Each of you is serious. Your international union is serious. ALPA's executive board was serious when it unanimously authorized the $2 million grant to help the WestJet pilots. Every one of ALPA's 69,000 pilots who fly for 39 airlines, soon to be 40, in Canada and the United States are serious. WestJet management can take it from me. WestJet pilots and their international union are very serious about achieving the collective agreement they've earned and that the company needs to maintain a strong pilot workforce. Tell me, are you serious? That's awesome. Makes me feel good every time you get that kind of unity. I tell you what. Thank you to the hundreds of off-duty WestJet pilots standing together across Canada in solidarity today. No one can doubt the professionalism and dedication of the WestJet pilots. On the flight deck and on the informational picket line, each of you embodies the standards of excellence that are the hallmark of our proud profession and our union. And by your professionalism, you show that union pilots will do what it takes to get the collective agreement they have earned. Thank you. Now I'd like to ask First Officer Charlene Hudy, Chair of the Air Canada Pilots Association, to say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Christina, Bernie, and Jason, for your very inspiring and incredible words. It's awesome to see the lanyards out here, a sea of lanyards, sea of professional pilots. You certainly are ready. And I'm humbled to be here representing the Air Canada pilots, because we are ready to stand with you and beside you. And our pilot group overwhelmingly voted to join the same union as yourselves, because the theme of our merger is that we are stronger together, that us unifying and standing shoulder to shoulder is how we are gonna reset our profession here north of the border in Canada. Christina's exactly right. The WestJet pilots are at the tip of the spear, but you need to know that the Air Canada pilots have your back, and this is the time when we need to reset our wages and our working conditions in Canada. because our true power is always going to reside within our unity and our collective resolve to stand together and tell our respective employers that the discount on professional Canadian pilot labor is over. I think it's incumbent on each and every one of us, everyone who's shown up here today, almost 800 of us, that it is up to us to better our profession and leave it in a better state than when we found it. The momentum that we've seen with the WestJet Pilot Group, that's been incredibly inspiring for the Air Canada pilots as well. When you chose to unionize and join ALPA, that helped our movement with the Air Canada Pilot Group as well. It's been inspiring to watch your group come together, and that solidarity that you've built, that is happening with the Air Canada pilots as well. And I can't wait in about a week's time when I can stand with you as an ALPA pilot side by side fighting for our profession. I think that unity, being stronger together, it's a very common campaign slogan for a reason, because we really are stronger together. We have to actually put that in action, and today we have that on full display. I don't want to take up too much of our time because I know we're all anxious to get out there, because this is going to be the visual embodiment of us being stronger together. I think we're all ready to see a North American standard contract here in Canada. We fly the same airplanes as our American colleagues. We fly in the same airspace. Sometimes we are literally flying the same passengers. So our wages and our working conditions need to reflect our true professional value. The fact that in about a week's time, when the executive board votes on the ACPA-ALPA merger agreement, the fact that we're going to have about 95% of all professional Canadian pilots in the same union is incredibly strong. It's going to help us lobby our industry and our government with that one collective pilot voice. So it's so important for me to be here today representing Air Canada pilots. We have many Air Canada pilots at all three bases today because we do stand with you. I truly do believe we're stronger as a pilot community when we stand together using our collective voice to achieve our goals. And that goal is that North American standard contract. With that, I will hand it over to Captain Ashley Sweet-Wagner, the Encore MEC Chair. Thank you.
Good morning. Okay, good morning, and thank you, Charlene, for joining us today. And thank you for all the ACPA pilots for such strong support for the WestJet group of pilots over the past few months. It goes without saying, we look forward to welcoming you all into the ALPA family later this month. As for what brings us together now, there is a common theme here today, and that is the theme of unity. Without it, there's nothing in this industry. As the MEC chair of the Encore Pilot Group, we've been watching with amazement all of the wonderful work being done by the WestJet MEC and their pilot volunteers. I have been so happy to see the amount of support the Pilot Group has received, not just from our fellow ALPA members, but from the aviation colleagues across North America and the world, for that matter. What we're doing here today matters. Not only does it show the strength and unity of our union to management across North America, it sheds a light on the issues we all face every day as pilots. Events like today also show the public what we do matters. And most importantly, it shows we are willing to fight for what matters, our careers and our airlines. We all want a prosperous aviation sector, and with only being a year removed from the COVID-related restrictions that nearly killed the aviation sector, it is time for management across Canada to understand we now work in a global marketplace and appreciate the professionalism and dedication we bring to the flight deck every day to ensure our passengers arrive to their destination safely. With that said, I encourage Bernie and the mainline pilots to keep up the good fight and remind him that the Encore pilots are giving you our full support. Now I would like to welcome back to welcome to the podium David Campbell, your SPSC National.
Why are we here today? Why do we gather as pilots in groups like this? I'll answer that question in just a minute, but first, I want to reiterate just a couple of the remarks I made on this very stage last month. Many of you here today have heard me speak of my frustration with Canadian management teams who say, "You're just Canadian pilots. You shouldn't expect what other North American pilots have." Well, in my position as the National SPSC Committee, or on the National SPSC Committee, I have the opportunity to visit with many pilot groups all across North America. And many of you have heard me say before, there are no differences among us. And as you heard Charlene mention just a minute ago, we fly the same airplanes through the same weather conditions, into the same airports, and through the same airspace, carrying oftentimes the same passengers. Pilots who perform similar work should work under a similar contract. This is not a dream, it's a reasonable expectation. The phrase, "you're just," bothers me because it's used against pilots, and it's not unique to Canada. I've heard it my entire career. You're just a flight instructor. You're just a regional airline pilot. You just work for an airline that's only the 5th largest in the US. Managements use this term to excuse their inability or their unwillingness to move our contracts forward. But much worse than that, they use it as an attempt to convince us we are less than our peers, less than them, less than who we know ourselves to be. It's not so much a statement about what they think of us, it's a statement about what they want us to think about ourselves. But of course, it's not up to management to define who we are or what we're worth. It's up to us. Do you think passengers see you as just Canadian pilots? Of course not. They see, when they look at you, the same thing that I see: an airline pilot, full stop. Now, I realize there's a heavier tax burden here in Canada on airlines, and I don't mean to minimize that fact. However, that is a challenge of doing business in Canada that is management's to solve, not an excuse to keep them from the North American contract you have earned. It's instructive to see where they make that argument and where they don't. They wouldn't, for example, demand a Canadian discount with Boeing or Airbus. Such an absurd request would be laughable, and it would be obscene. Using "you're just" against pilots irritates me to no end, but what really sticks in my craw is this. You know who else doesn't see you as just Canadian pilots? Management. That may seem counterintuitive, so consider this. Safely flying airplanes is the core of our business. That requires expertise and experience of 2 pilots trained for life. It would be reckless of management to crew their airplanes with anything less than the best. They know your value. They know your worth. They just haven't expressed a willingness to compensate you for it. They have exploited an artificial discount of their own making and don't seem willing to give that up. And why would they? A more useful question for us, though, is why don't they? The answer to that lies in a now famous remark made by CEO Frank Lorenzo prior to the Eastern Strike. I'll tell the story briefly, but he was boarding an airplane and on his way in, stopped into the flight deck to chat with the pilots. And after a few pleasantries, the captain cut to the chase and said, "When are you going to agree to the contract we're working on?" Without skipping a beat, Lorenzo looked right back at that captain and said, "When you make me." Sadly, that one statement crystallizes the paradigm under which managements too often negotiate with us. When managements say they can't, they usually mean they won't, not until we make them. And my friends, that is why we are here today, to make them. We need to make them have a reason to say yes. And this is how we make them, by joining together in solidarity, by displaying our unity, by continuing to serve our passengers with the safety and professionalism that is synonymous with the term airline pilot, by overwhelmingly approving a strike authorization, as you already have, and if forced to, by withdrawing our services to engage in a legal strike. Your management says they can't, but we know they can. We have done the research. They can afford to improve the contract, and they can continue to operate their business with the improvements you are seeking. We know they can, but what they are projecting to us is that they won't, not until we make them, and we will make them. We will narrow the gap between North American contracts when we make them. We will secure our futures with job security and scope when we make them. We will achieve scheduling flexibility and work rule improvements when we make them. The era of exploiting Canadian pilot labor will be over when we make them, and we will make them. I would like to close by sharing something personal with you and sharing why I'm here today. Early in my career, I was first to go on strike by a management team who wouldn't say yes until we made them. It wasn't easy. It lasted 89 days, and during that time, it was a real shot in the arm to know that all of the ALPA pilots supported me. I'm here today to return the favor. When one group moves ahead, we all move ahead. When one group is at the tip of the spear to protect and improve the profession, as you are today, we all come to their support. It's ingrained in our sense of crew. It's who we are as pilots. It's what we stand for in ALPA. I want each and every one of you to know, and perhaps more importantly, I want your CEO to know, and just in case he's listening, let me speak directly. I and my fellow ALPA pilots see you, we know what you're doing, and we won't let it stand. The WestJet pilots are our brothers and sisters, and we have their backs. Thank you. I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak. It is truly an honor and a privilege, and I thank you so much. And with that, I'd like to welcome back your committee or strike committee chairman, Christina Thomson.
Thank you, David. This will conclude the broadcasting portion of today to everybody in Toronto and Vancouver, respectively, as well as here in Calgary. Please remain in your seats. Our audiovisual team will be presenting an outro, and then Tom Lindstrom will be coming up to explain the picketing protocol for when this event in here is over. Thank you. Thank you all. The broadcast